Hello, everyone. My name is Laurel Miller, and I'm going to share with you my ethical dilemma. First, before I do, I'll tell you a little bit about my practicum. This ethical dilemma happened in my practicum. I work at a place called Adams Place, and it's support groups for children in grief. And we do a lot of social and emotional learning programs in our peer support group. And we do activities that help the children process through their grief and their feelings and what it means to them. I had an experience of doing virtual Camp Cope, which is the peer support group, and also in person at the schools. And so this actually happened within the school system. And our support groups run for anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks long. And so each one's considered a session. And this happened during the third session of Camp Cope within a downtown Las Vegas elementary school. This group that attended were children that were having behavioral issues, which we didn't know until we were having a lot of behavior issues with them during the sessions. And it usually takes them a couple of sessions to get comfortable, to know what the rules of the group are, to feel comfortable with the facilitators and the group cohesion. And so in the third session, one of the boys, who's a third grader, and he's an African American third grader male, he said twice that he couldn't bring something home or his dad would beat him. And before they had said, oh, I'm not going to take that home with them. And we probably had 3 little boys that were like, I can't take this home with me. Can you keep it here? They were very concerned that their artwork or their projects that they had put together, specifically like a memory box, if we could keep it there for them so that they could keep working on it because it was important to them, but they couldn't bring it home. And so his expression that his dad would beat him if he brought home his art project was very concerning. We did have the school counselor and her assistant in the room, but when I shared with them what had happened, they had not heard that, and they said that they would check up on him. I did go and talk with my supervisor afterwards and asked her if that was the right way to handle it. And she had told me that the best way was to pull the student aside and just make sure that clarify and find out if he was really unsafe, if his dad, how often does his dad beat him? Does he beat him? What does it look like when he beats him? Is he talking about threats, or is he talking about actual physical actions? And because I didn't know what the policy was within the school district, I figured that the teachers and the counselors there had jurisdiction over these children, so I turned it over to them. And then it's also very difficult when you're running a group and these kids have to run back to class and they only have a certain amount of time. I didn't have enough time to pull them aside because he had to get back to another special class that he was attending. The cultural considerations for this third grader boy is that he's an African American boy. He is likely to experience discrimination. He lives in a low socioeconomic neighborhood. He attends a Title I school, and many of his peers that participate in this group with him have had fathers that have been killed in front of them in gang shootings. Many of the parents may participate in gang-related activities. and they are not willing to come in and have the school help them. The theory that I used for this, and there was several that I could use, but I used the social exchange perspective, which best fits the student's situation. His dad has the ultimate say in his home and the power. When considering his actions, this third grader, he weighs the cost and the benefits. The basic assumptions of the social exchange theory are people are motivated by self-interest. Jose refusing to take home his art is based on his self-interest. If he brought his art home, his father would be angry, and that would not be in his self-interest. Another basic assumption is the humans are rational beings. His decision to not bring his artwork home was a rational decision. The cost of bringing his art home would induce anger in his father, and thus the cost would be too great, and the reward of having his art would be small in comparison to his father's anger and possible beating. The ethical decision framework I used was the Social Work Code of Ethics 1.01, a commitment to the client. A social worker's responsibility is to promote the well-being of the client. A social worker is required by law to report child abuse. And I did not report that as abuse because I didn't get further information, but I did turn it over to the schools. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about that, and maybe some good advice. And I think the next time I will make sure that I know, if I'm going into a school or a different facility, what they're expecting us to do, and what the chain of command is, and what the policies and procedures are. Because if I don't know those policies and procedures, I can't be effective in doing social work. Some of the limitations, went out of order. Some of the limitations and strengths of this student is that he's a very smart individual. He reads well, and he's well liked by his peers. He is grieving the death of his grandmother and sister, but he does have an older sister who attends the group with him, and they seem to have a close connection. She seems to be at least 2 years older and just is solid. She's slow to act and listens, and she's very quiet, and she seems to be very stable for him. One of the limitations is he has behavior issues in the classroom. He seeks to be socially accepted by his classmates, and he does that by doing things that are not pro-social, and that causes problems for him in the classroom. Also, another limitation is he's an African American male, which means he experiences or may experience racial tensions, and they have gang activity in their neighborhood. This third grader's perception is that the problem is that he's not supposed to make his dad upset, and that it is more important to keep dad happy than to allow him to have the things he needs to process his grief. And so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and thank you for your time.